think we might be live.
Yeah, we're live.
Hello and welcome to the Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, episode 19. I'm Kurt.
Nightson.
Handor.
Gigett.
End of line?
Together, we form a crime-fighting team that the world
No, we
has never
don't.
seen before.
No,
No, we don't.
that is not
Wait.
true.
Crime-causing team?
That license was revoked.
Oh,
Bring in the terrible chopper audio and somebody do the A-Team theme. Quick.
Hey,
Crack
Kurt,
unit of...
where can people find us on the internet?
Well, if you would be so inclined, you might be able to find us at pixelscandal.com.
Which looks real good these days, guys.
It got some updates, y'all. Go check it out. You might also be able to email us, pixelscandal@gmail.com. And you could follow us on Twitter or Instagram at pixelscandal. And probably other things. Oh,
Podcast.
and guess what? We've got audio.
Yay!
I mean, we always had audio, but now you can just get the audio in your favorite audio podcast app. Like, head into the Apple Podcasts and check out Pixel Scandal Nerdcast, and we'll come right up. You can find us in Spotify even, and you can listen to all our back episodes. I highly recommend that you go ahead and skip those first 4.
Don't do it. Listen to all of them. They're not that bad.
There is a warning, so... But if audio quality is a big concern, just skip those first 4.
Don't skip. Really don't. You have to experience it from the beginning.
Sure. Yeah. If you got to go for the beginning, but I have warned you. So if you're listening to those early episodes, please don't leave us a bad review for audio quality. We have given you ample warning.
Yeah. There you go. Our spotlight topic tonight is going to be how to make your players care about what's happening in your RPG game, how to help them feel feels. So that's what the topic for tonight is going to be a little bit later on after we kind of check in with everybody else on the cast here. So, End of Line, do you have any announcements for us?
Yeah, we do. We have 2 announcements. We have our next actual play, which is going to be October 13th. That'll be at 9 a.m. We are going to be running a one-shot. It will not be Dungeon World because Kurt is cheating on Katie with a con.
Dave Kazay and Kurt are running away together.
Yep.
I mean,
just for the weekend.
Entirely untrue.
Katie will be running a one-shot game. She hasn't quite decided what yet, but I'm hoping spooky. But we'll see.
It'll be something fun.
I'm sure it'll be cute and lovely.
No, spooky and bloody. Okay, the next Dungeon World game is going to be November 10th. That'll also be at 9 a.m. and we will be returning to the World of Hats. So.
Yay, hats!
Yeah, snake hats.
World of Hats, the new expansion for World of Tanks.
Yes.
It is a team-based hat shooter.
So do you shoot hats off of people's heads, or do you shoot hats onto people's heads?
It is very meta. You are hats that shoot other hats at hats.
It depends on what class archetype you pick.
Okay, well there you go. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
Coming this fall.
Coming this fall.
Soon TM.
Yeah. So we don't have a lot here, what we're excited about. Obviously, Kurt is very excited about Big Bad Con coming up in October. Does anybody else have anything that they're excited about that is not?
I spent a week being super stoked after our discussion last week on Pantheon. I spent a week, poring over all the little bits of tidbits data that popped out. And it's like, yeah, I'm super stoked, and this is all really interesting stuff, and yay. And it's not coming out for a million years. And so I need to go put it back in the hype box so that it doesn't spoil.
Tuck it back in.
Then I'm excited that someone else is excited, so there we go. Now I'm excited too.
I actually went back and was listening to our very first podcast a couple days ago.
I'm sorry.
And we mentioned Pantheon in our first cast.
Did we really?
Yeah, as a reference of how long it's going to be till something comes out.
Oh my god.
And then someone says something about Pantheon. So I just think it's funny.
And in the scope of the heat death of the universe, it's still not any closer.
It's
Nope.
not true. It
Nope.
is coming. They're doing pre-alpha 4 very soon. All classes up to level 40. It's a big deal.
Yeah, I hear they're releasing the same day as Star Citizen, right? Same launch window.
Yeah, sure,
I think-
totally.
It's coming
That game's
before.
gonna come out.
It's definitely coming before Duke Nukem Forever 2.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Well, that's good.
Okay.
For sure.
So you realize, we got some pretty good comments from people in the Reddit realm from End of Lines talk of Pantheon and stuff, and we got feedback from that, and now we're gonna get shit on hardcore as this one goes for now trashing
Being
Pantheon
shitty about it?
No.
Yeah.
around.
It's
This
not
isn't
trashing.
This isn't trashing. This is being disappointed that it's not here yet. This is
Yeah.
like a kid in November 1st going like, why isn't it fucking Christmas? Where's my presents?
Oh, no.
Why, no,
Yeah.
why isn't it Christmas next year?
Yeah.
Kurt and
What-
I were at our niece's birthday party today, and one of the little kids that's like 3 turned to his mom and said, "How come today's not my birthday?" And the mom's like, "Yeah, he says that every time we go to a birthday party."
It's
Oh,
a
it
reasonable
that's how we
question.
feel about
He
it.
says he wakes up every morning. How come it's not my birthday?
Right? Yeah, so how come Pantheon's not here yet? That's our
Every
version
morning.
of that.
That's what I'll ask
Every
Gidget
day.
every morning when I wake up. Why isn't Pantheon here?
Go, I don't know. Why'd you go ask End of Line, Kurt? As if it's your fault.
It's definitely my fault.
No, I meant End of Line's fault. Anyway, so what have we been playing lately? I see someone's been playing Boundless.
Hmm.
So what is Boundless? Like, give me the
Honestly-
elevator pitch.
Yeah,
Give us that pitch, man.
yeah. So the pitch is gonna go like it's a really involved, tweaked version of Minecraft that allows you to actually have like all of your solid mod packs installed with the game. The universe is huge. You can travel to other planets.
Planets?
Yeah, well,
That's
the
cool.
biomes and yeah, the planet that you're on actually has all of its biomes just like Minecraft would. But you travel to other planets that are going to be dense in ore, or you're going to travel to another planet that's going to be dense in like your coal and stuff like that you would need, the resources that you would need. But those planets may be inhospitable, so you may need to level a little bit, put some points into volatile resistance or whatever. It's pretty in depth. It's for $40, I think, is what it was.
It's funny. I'm watching the Steam video on it right now, and like the graphics aren't horrible, especially if you take it from a Minecraft perspective.
Yeah.
Of course, it looks like a game that came from PlayStation 1 still, but you know. But what's funny is the graphics of the area, like to the wilderness and everything, it looks decent and kind of slopey and whatnot. And then you get into anything that's man-made, and it is 100% Minecraft blocks.
Yeah.
It just blocks
Yeah.
everywhere. Like everything is
Absolutely.
90-degree angles.
Yeah, and that's what it is. You craft a chisel in order to make your stairs. It's it's the same thing. Instead of stacking 3 pieces of wood and then 3 slabs on top of that to get your stair, or the triangle or the whatever diagonal to get your stairs. Holy, I'm sorry, Gidget.
I'm sorry. I'm so
Boundless,
sorry.
Boundless is very boring, and
Yeah, obviously.
No, I'm so sorry.
Oh, it sounds so interesting. Tell me more.
Honestly, though, in all fairness, it is. If you're expecting something like Minecraft with a little more in-depth playability, then Boundless is great. Other than that, it's Minecraft with mods.
Cool. I mean, we all like Minecraft, so it's probably
Yeah, we've got some
Yeah.
play
I don't know if I want
Probably
$40 Minecraft in space, but might be worth checking out.
Well,
Yeah.
hey man, it runs better than it's an MMO, so it runs better than Minecraft, and trying to pay for the server and stuff. So
It doesn't require
You know.
30 gigs of RAM on a server. To
yeah,
run
exactly. So consider that out of your not having to take that out of your wallet once a
Yeah.
month.
That's cool.
nice.
What's everybody else excited about?
So, I've been playing WoW this week. Still.
Are you still
I
enjoying
think
it?
you're the
I
only
saw that.
one.
Yeah, you are pretty much.
I am still enjoying it, and I'm happy that I'm still enjoying it because I don't have time to get into any other video games right now.
No, honestly, it's not that the game's bad. It's not like the expansion's
not.
bad or the content's bad.
Yeah, it's really
It's
not.
just for me.
It's still
so
WoW.
I haven't won the game.
It's still WoW. It's ultimately what it
Still
comes down
WoW.
at the end of the
Yeah,
day.
it's still WoW.
The game is still 80% the game I played 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I see. Someone said that they were playing Pantheon, but then I see they haven't, and someone is a liar. So I'm gonna go with no one's played Pantheon.
If someone here has played Pantheon and not told me, I'm gonna slap the shit out of you. No, I don't think anyone here is playing Pantheon yet.
I made a papercraft version and I've been playing it at my table.
Someone has been playing League of Legends and maining Pantheon. That's what they meant.
Yeah.
There we go. They've been playing Pantheon in League.
Yeah.
Y'all
Misunderstanding.
see that new League game mode, the PvE version?
I saw a commercial of it. It looked cool.
I keep seeing banner ads for it, and it's always like I can't even remember what it is. But every time I see it, I'm like, "What is this? I should go." Never mind.
Yeah, it's still like I don't know.
What we should do is get our mini me on here to talk about it.
I was
going
gonna
to
say
what the
we
hell
should
is
ask the
going
boy.
on.
The boy
Yeah,
probably
sure, he'll
can
have played
answer
it.
these
Yeah.
questions.
If he were here, I would be like, get in here and tell us about this thing. But he is
Card
not.
him in here.
Internet
Like,
needs
"Hey,
you."
talk about this to the internet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we got together. The California Pixel Scandal group got together and played some board games.
Californians.
The Californians last
How do
night,
they say that?
which was
We took the 41 to the 99 down to the.
down to the 168. No, so we played Resistance again,
Resistance is so fun.
which
Big
was
fan.
still fun,
Big fan.
even though Reztez was a little bit angry.
Little sour grapes.
Little sour grapes. But it was still really fun. I do think that an odd number group is the way to go because we had an even number, and it was slightly less fun than it had been the previous time we played, where there was an odd number of people. And then we played Sentinels of the Multiverse, which is a game that's like a card game that we all
Deck builder.
play.
We
on the
always have
regular.
fun with
Yeah.
Sentinels.
But it's not really a deck builder. It's just a deck game. It's it's a card game with a million different decks.
It's like a combat
Yep.
game with decks.
Yep. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. We actually have that one as well.
That we have broken so badly. We had a new player
Yeah.
play with us last night, and I gave her the challenge of, can you tell us whose turn it actually is right now?
Yeah. Because we were playing with Argent Adept and Guys,
Mhm.
and those two characters do so much.
Well, no, it's Captain Cosmic.
Oh,
is the
and
problem.
Captain Cosmic. But they all do so much off turn that it gets confusing because like Captain Cosmic procs something on one person, which makes Argent Adept get a thing, which makes Cosmic Guy do it again, and then this, but like it just. So we actually end up using like a little can and like passing it around the table to keep track of whose turn it actually is. Otherwise, it gets really confusing.
I legitimately felt like we were beating up on a little kindergartner taking his lunch money.
It was
Yeah.
it was pretty bad.
The bad guy just
Yeah.
couldn't do anything.
No, he was.
I
locked
you
up.
I don't
Yeah.
even know that he got a turn. Like, did the bad guy take turns?
Oh, he got turns.
Yeah.
He just
That's how we got all
didn't
the relics.
accomplish anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The most damage he did was round one.
Yeah.
Yeah. I took a picture of our table from that game last night and posted it on Instagram, just of like the chaos of all the cards from all of us playing them out on the table.
I don't think we've ever used that combination.
We are a group that plays way too much support in general.
Support breaks that game. Like,
And
if you're
support breaks
selfish
it.
and you play a bunch of DPS, like,
Well,
the
there
game
were-
is gonna not go well.
There were 6 of
Yeah.
us, and we had really one dedicated person who was putting out damage. And so basically, we were all buffing her and giving her all the +1 damages. So when her turn came around, she was doing like 27 damage per turn because we all had just were like, oh, well, you're the damage person. Here's all the
Yeah.
There's
Yeah,
also things
the
to make it
humor.
better.
The thing about that game is it's so built around action economy, especially like the old characters from like the classic box.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
That
Yep.
it's designed around you play one spell, you use one power. As soon as you introduce Guise or Archon Adept or Captain Cosmic, or a couple of the other ones,
The meta folds into itself.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
the universe just kind of implodes around them.
Oh
That
yeah.
is the multiverse.
We are not prepared for these characters working together and having players competent enough to see the broken synergy between them. And then once you unlock that power, you are unstoppable.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, it's pretty ridiculous.
But fun.
So you guys started playing Dead by Daylight again.
Yeah.
Was
Well,
that today?
Never really stopped so much, but just kind of a surge again.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing a lot today, actually. They did
Nice.
they did a rank reset,
you did.
and so trying to get that rank 1 again.
Nice. We should stream and play that.
Anytime.
Agreed.
I kept looking at seeing you guys green in Discord earlier today, not playing it.
Well, the problem was someone, not pointing any fingers. Which direction is it? This way?
Yep.
Yeah, this way. Was playing an online RPG, so he was technically online, but he was also monopolizing the office because he was playing an online RPG with the Gauntlet.
He was playing
it
Monopoly
was
the
fun.
RPG.
Yeah. So what were you playing on the stream that you were on today?
So I played in a World of Dungeons game called Tale of the Scarecrow. It was the first of 3 sessions. So this was mostly character gen and a little bit of like, I think we did like 2 encounters. It's kind of interesting. The guy who's running it is Jason Cordova. He's sort of like the lead guy over at the Gauntlet, and I can definitely see a difference in the way he runs game. Or I don't know if this is all games that he runs, but the way that he ran this game was more story game than I'm used to. He put a lot of stuff above board. There's a mechanic in World of Dungeons called the luck die, where you roll a die. If it's high, then good outcome, low bad outcome. And so whenever you're like, oh well, you're gonna do something, let's see how this guard reacts to you. Oh my god, are you bored? Anyways, so he would like tell us what the result was and then do the thing, right? And instead of just like sort of playing it out, or he would tell us like, oh, you're gonna have 3 encounters on the road to this town, and he would tell us what they're gonna be, and then we would have the encounters.
It's
and so
kind of a weird way to GM, like putting everything up front. Like, this is what you're going to encounter eventually today.
right.
Which
But
is
he would sort of
kind
like
a weird
step
way
back
to
and
do
say
it.
like, here's the kind of things that we're gonna do. Let's talk about it, and then like we do the scene. But it was very much, I don't know. It ran it more like a story game, right? Like a Fiasco, where you're like, oh,
I was about
in
to say,
this
it sounds
game,
like a
I'd
playing
to
game of
see-
Fiasco.
Yeah. In this game, I'd like to see X go, and then the scene ends, and you're like, all right, on to the next scene that we know is probably going to happen. So there wasn't the like exploration discovery kind of stuff that going on that you normally get out of an OSR type of game, but it was still an interesting experience. Like, I enjoyed the game. I'm looking forward to the next 2, especially now that because he asked us a lot of questions. He did a lot of, you heard some rumors about this town. Why everyone left? What were they? Right? And so we would fill in the blanks. And so I'm hoping that now that he's going to have a week to prep that stuff, like it's going to be a little more in the scenes instead of like top down view. But we'll see how it goes. It's definitely a different way of jamming than I'm used to, but I enjoyed it, so we'll see what happens next week.
Cool. So as we kind of said last week, we kind of didn't do our Strategicon recap because we wanted to make sure we gave enough time to Pantheon, and we had a double long episode to make sure that we covered everything we needed to last week. So
And still didn't get all the topic covered.
And still really didn't get all the topics covered, yeah. But we did go for 2 hours. So we held off our Strategicon recap for this one. So hold on to your chair there, Handor. Try to stay awake while you recap what happened. But yeah, so Kurt and I headed down to Strategicon 2 weeks ago and played in several different RPGs. And honestly, we ended up playing in all the same games, which is a very rare thing. We usually go our separate ways. and come back and then like tell each other about what we played, but instead somehow we were both like, yes, these are the things we want to play, and it just all ended up as the same stuff. So previously on the stream, we've talked about the game 16 Candles.
10 candles.
Or I mean 10 Candles, sorry. 10 Candles, which is an RPG, kind of a horror RPG where you start out with all the candles to actual 10 candles lit, and then as you go through the game, the players lose narrative control as they start to fail dice rolls, and the GM gains narrative control, and so basically things get worse and worse and worse until the whole world ends. Mm-hmm. But instead, we played in 16 Candles, we played it in reverse. So we started with everything was shit. Everything mm-hmm. was awful. We were a bunch of teenagers, and everyone hated us. We hated each other. Life was horrible, and we had one candle lit. And the GM had a lot of narrative control, and we failed a lot of things because that's how 16 Candles, you know, those 80s teen comedies, I mean, I don't know, it's not exactly a comedy, movies used to go. So I ended up playing a like theater nerd type character. I was a huge stretch for me. Who wrote slam poetry to like present her, I don't know, her art to the school. Mm-hmm. And I actually, while we were playing the game, wrote a little slam poem on a scratch piece of paper so that when it came time, I totally said it at the table.
Whoa,
so
man.
When the poetry reading came up, so our school was the Roosevelt Roosters. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a slam poem called Cock. And of course, I said cock over and over and over again. And then there was like 2 lines of actual poetry and then saying cock over and over again. You know, like a teenage poem would go. But yeah, it was like a really entertaining game. Kurt played like the douche, like rich preppy guy who wore like the white sport jacket with the sleeves pushed up, and
again, not much of a stretch.
Not a huge stretch.
Yeah. Just playing, you know. Falling into those old.
Old Pixel Scandal were they? Yes.
Yeah, that was me.
#6 cock poem. If you go listen to the Happy Jacks podcast from that first weekend in September, we recap it with all of the players that were in that game, not just Kurt and I, but all the other players.
That was a really fun game. I my favorite part was 2 of us ended up playing the
rich
douche guy, and so we both showed up to school wearing the white suit. In our I had the red Porsche and he had the red Corvette, so like we were and like we got in a fight over who gets to wear the white suit on what days. That was a good time.
Yeah, you know, it definitely felt like an 80s teen movie though, because Kurt's douchebag character ended up getting taken to jail for drugs, right?
I robbed what did I rob? The pharmacist. I robbed the pharmacy, and so I went to jail. But then I got bailed out in time for prom. Yeah. Because I mean, when you're rich, jail's more of an inconvenience than a real problem.
And the other douchebag kind of had his falling apart story, and his redemption was that he and I ended up dating and going to prom together, and basically he turned me more popular, and I made him less of a douchebag. And we ended up as prom king and queen. That's how the game ended. So
is that like you take the glasses off of her and all of a sudden she's just dead gorgeous? And...
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we definitely had a moment where someone had the take the glasses off and give him a haircut makeover.
Yeah. There was another player in the game, Gina, who played the like super nerdy girl who actually, CA Dave, who was on one of our guest for our one-shot Dungeon World game, he was in that game as well, and he's the one who kind of turned her into the hot girl, like pulled off the ponytail and glasses and was like, oh my gosh, she's hot. So Yeah, it was a very, very fun game. It had a lot of really cool people in it, and if that was very story, like Kurt was saying, that story kind of game where there isn't a lot of mechanics to it. But one of the mechanics in 10 Candles is that every time you lose a candle, you do like a little jump in time, talk about like what happened. Everybody goes around the table, and in 16 Candles, we did like a montage of like what happened between like the next candle getting lit. So we did like an 80s movie montage of like people getting ready for prom or going to the bowling alley or whatever. And it was really fun.
Of all the games you guys told us you guys were playing, that is overwhelming the one I was disappointed I was not going to get to play it.
So I actually I just found out that I get to. Oh, sorry, someone's going to say something. Am I?
No, you're good.
We're good. Okay. So I just found out Tomer, who played it with us, is gonna run it at Big Bad Con, and I got into it, and so it is the last game I'm gonna play before leaving Big Bad Con. So I'm gonna go to Big Bad Con, play Merkurger with Tomer on Friday morning, and then play 16 Candles with him on Sunday before I leave. And it's that like whatever else happens in the con, I'm happy.
See, I still state though that I would like to see if 16 Candles is a reverse 10 Candles, I want to see the reverse of that, where it is 10 Candles in a John Hughes movie.
Oh, yeah, and everyone's dying. Like it starts out, everyone's in detention, and suddenly the principal is a zombie.
I want to see I want to see Ducky get impaled.
No, Ducky's... Hashtag Team Ducky.
Okay, what was funny is I kind of expected most of the guys at the table to want to be Ducky, because like in real life there are a bunch of Duckies.
It's a gaming convention. We're all Duckies.
Right, and instead we all ended up with a bunch of rich douchebags. So it was kind of funny that like nobody was. I mean, the closest thing would have been CA Dave playing the like David Bowie sort of character.
Oh my god, it was the best.
He had like angular clothes where like the shoulder pouts were straight out and then it went to a point, and like everything was about
they checkered
angles with him.
It's like black and white checkered.
No, he wore bright pink wingtips.
Yeah, and he would pull out drugs from his poncho. It was good.
Weird-ass star
it was very good. That was the highlight of the whole trip, was that first game. But after that, Kurt and I played in an Apocalypse World hack written by Christopher Gray called The Great American Novel, and we played The Godfather.
You both played The Godfather?
Well, we played in The Godfather.
Yeah, Godfather was the scenario.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So
no
basically,
The Godfather.
We took turns being the Godfather.
I think one of us got to be the Godfather.
So the basic setup was that like we were all connected to the family in some way. I was married to the Don's son. I was his wife, and that son was an NPC, a non-playable character. And they were having an Easter party. And at the Easter party, a different mob family was coming over, and they were going to discuss a hit on the Don's friend who had kind of screwed up. And everybody had different motivations for whether or not they wanted this guy killed. And obviously, like, the head of our family didn't want his friend killed. And so it ended up this, like, struggle of what side of the hit you were on, but also were you pulling for not my husband, the Don's son, but the bastard son? Like, were you pulling for him to become the new Don? Were you pulling for my husband to become the new Don? Were you trying to stay behind, like, the guy who is the Don now? Like, it felt like playing The Godfather, even though it wasn't like specifically the story of The Godfather.
This is all fine and good, but did you guys get to eat real cannolis while you were at the table?
No, but he had Francis Ford Coppola wine.
Yeah, he did. It was super good.
It was
that
good.
Kind of counts then.
Oh my god.
Not only did we play in this game written by Christopher Gray ran the game. So he brought wine, and it's his hack, and so it was really cool to get to play with the guy who wrote it and drink with him.
Yeah, he's a really great guy. I actually play the Stars Without Number game. He runs, and so he's a cool guy.
He's a cool cat.
I'm really impressed with his game. it's a
He
hard
also
sell.
ran 16 Candles.
Yeah, he's the one who ran 16 Candles
He wrote
wrote
both these
the
games.
hack of 10 Candles.
Yeah.
But the pitch for Great American Novel is tough, because you say to people like, oh yeah, it's a Powered by the Apocalypse hack that lets you play Great American Novels, and everyone's like, yeah, I don't know what that means. Why would I want to do that? But like actually getting to play it, it has mechanics
really
for
fun.
whether your character is rising or falling, like whether they're like how their arc is going, and you get different moves based on whether you're rising or falling.
And there's also a mechanic for whether or not like the other players at the table are protagonists or antagonists to you. And so there's a like at one point the guy who was playing the bastard character was like hitting on me and trying to get me to basically turn on my husband so I would favor him to be the new Dawn.
And I'm sorry, but you just don't play another man's piano.
I think we established that you just ask the piano what it wants, Kurt.
It was the 40s. Pianos don't have feelings.
Yeah, they still do.
And I'm just gonna back away.
Yeah.
But honestly, that was a difficult part for me, was playing a woman in the 40s and not being able to just blatantly be like, this is my opinion and this is what I think we should be doing. Like, I was trying to be like true to the times and the character.
Oh yeah.
So I kept working around the family. I would go to the Don's wife. I would go to Mama and be like, I'm really worried about my husband and he's been doing things he shouldn't have been doing. And so she would go back and tell the Don, and it would piss him off that his son was fucking around, so that he would try and put a hit on my husband.
So what you're saying is you played a lot more subterfuge and a lot less shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, which is very
how do we
outside
get
of the
that
norm for me.
How do we get that kitchen?
Apparently put me in the 1940s. That's
How do we work that?
Hey, anybody wants to run a pulp
And make her
game,
drink
I
a
am
bunch
all-
of wine.
I'm all game for
Yeah,
a pulp game.
just feed her drinks all day.
Feed her
That'll do it.
wine at the table.
I was very drunk for
dude.
most of Strategicon.
So
I think most
yeah, I was
people are
wrecked the whole-
So you're saying
semi-drunk for most of
Strategicon.
Strategicon.
Oh my god. So the next day, because like that happened on Friday night, and then the next day was Saturday. So I actually I went down to Games on Demand. I meant to do Games on Demand all day, but we ended up getting into an afternoon game. But in the morning, I went down there and I ran the game that I wrote, Forest Mother. I went down and pitched it, and to my surprise, people actually wanted to play it. I was so excited. And I got there were 6 of us, so I had 5 players. And I'm a player because it's not a GM'd game. And it was really fun. Like it was so great to see it like out and in front of real people and see them playing it and everyone kind of smiling, laughing. One of my favorite parts was at some point you declare like a forest-wide danger, like something that's threatening the whole forest. And one of the examples I gave was a predator, and everyone was like, "The predator?" And I was like, "Sure, it could be the predator." And so they were like, "Awesome, it's the predator, and he's here to like kill bunnies and stuff to test out the challenge rating of life forms on Earth." Like you gotta work your way up.
His way up, yeah.
Yeah, you gotta work your way up to Arnie. And so
So this is set a week prior to the Predator.
Yeah.
This is before, yeah.
So the new Predator
And,
movie that came out this weekend, somebody needs to superimpose a few like bunny skulls in the shit where their trophies are.
Like wrecking shit. But yeah, it was really fun. I actually got some really valuable feedback from the people that I played with, and I think I came up with some interesting ways to kind of tighten up the end and adjust the difficulty of the dangers and stuff like that. So I'm really excited to get a new version out there and get it play tested again.
Yeah, and then after that, you played in a Monkey Fun Studio game.
Oh yeah, I played Malice with Dave and Joey.
But Malice is written by Dave Kazay. We had him on the podcast about a month ago, and he was talking about how he comes up with ideas and writes ideas, and he was talking about Malice and how it should be coming out pretty soon. So Kurt got to actually play in that and see how that's actually going to get played.
I've only got to play Spirit of 77. If it's an indie indication, I'm sure it's absolutely amazing. And Malice seems like more like mainstream, like something I would enjoy a little bit more. But I had a blast.
Malice is what did C.A. Dave Sith Lord in our chat described it as if you took Fate and you took Fiasco and you put them in a blender until it screamed, and then you played it. That's the game.
I think it's like it's taking pieces of both of those that work well and putting them into a game together instead of taking the parts of both of those games that don't work. It's taking the parts that do work from those games. I didn't play in it, but I did sit and watch a good chunk of it be played. And something that I did like that he used is the relationship between you and the person next to you, and whether or not it was a positive relationship or a negative relationship, and that would affect the way your actions went in the game. So that was kind of interesting. I like it when your relationships with people affect the outcome of what you're doing. So it's a really cool game. I don't think it's quite out yet. I think Dave Kazay is still in test mode on that one. So, but when it comes out, we will definitely be backing that and announcing when it comes out.
And he'll be running it at Big Bad Con if you're going to be there.
Yeah. So then we spent most of Sunday playing Big Trouble Little China board game.
Oh my God, so good.
With a group of people, which we were like, oh, board game. This is like an hour or two. We played it for 4 hours, and we only got through half of the game. And it's just a board game, but Lord, it was hilarious and fun. It was so much fun. You have like missions you have to do, and you get more powerful. But the best part of that board game is when you die, you go to hell, and you basically come right back alive.
It's the 1,000 hells, or the 10,000 hells.
It's like a stack of cards, and you pull it, and then there's some horrible thing that you have to deal with the rest of the game. So, like, one of them was we were playing with Tappy from the Happy Jacks podcast, and he had to say an action movie, like, catchphrase before he could do an action every turn for the rest of the game.
And he couldn't repeat it, or if he didn't say it, he took 2 damage. If he repeated a previous one, he took 4 damage.
Yeah. And, yeah, exactly. And then one was, like, you had to stand the rest of the game, where you lost Chi, and Chi was basically, like, your XP.
My favorite part about those hells is before we pulled one, because it took us a long time to actually die. Like we were really scared of dying, and so we started joking about like the hell of weak mimosas, and like the hell of being slightly off key at karaoke kind of stuff. And then it turned out that's what it fucking was. Like, it was basically that.
Like the most ridiculous hells you could imagine.
Yeah, it was so good.
But that board game is available on Amazon. It's like $80. But damn, that game was fun, and I totally want to buy it, and we're totally gonna get it.
Oh yeah, it's super expensive, but totally fucking worth it.
But the reason we didn't get to finish it is because we had scheduled ourselves to go play Artemis, which is a Star Trek ship simulator type game.
It's the bridge simulator.
Yeah.
It's about 1 million years old at this point.
Oh yeah,
right.
it's super fun though.
But
and we've discussed it on Pixel Scandal. We're definitely at some point gonna get together and stream ourselves playing it, so you guys can see the ridiculousness there is of that game.
Oh yeah.
My favorite part of the game was so I was playing the weapons engineer person.
Yeah.
And there was something wrong with my touch screen. So, like, even the person who was, like, helping us run the game, who knew how to do the controls, kept coming over and, like, tapping my screen and not understanding why it wasn't shooting the things it was supposed to be shooting. And so at one point, the communication person was talking to the enemy ship, and they had surrendered. But before they surrendered, he had told me to shoot torpedoes, like, as a warning shot. And it's because there was a delay, they surrendered, put their shields down, and the torpedoes went off because I had hit them.
Brilliant strategy.
You're a tyrant!
Yeah. So the captain goes, oh, good, they've surrendered. And then on the big screen, you hear...
The ship just explodes.
As it explodes. And everybody looks at me like, what did you do? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't. I swear.
She's consistent, I will tell you that.
Yeah.
Just murder everyone all the time.
Yeah.
My favorite thing from that game was Adam from Happy Jacks was the commander, and
Joey was
Joey was the communications officer, and so Joey is the commander is like open a channel, and he goes, all right, I have sent them a slightly shady message, and he goes, very well, away the shade.
And Joey's like, shade away.
Shade away.
It was really funny.
It was really
It
good.
was-
It's
it
like,
was
they
a
have
really-
insulted your mother. I have defended your honor.
Yeah, it was really, really fun playing Artemis. And then that night, Kurt played in a game that Rob, who was on our Dungeon World game last weekend,
Mm-hmm.
he's written his own PBTA hack called Moonhaven Witch Academy.
Oh, it's so good, guys.
And you play teenage witches in a witch academy, and it has a very like Harry Potter-ish vibe. And what is that show on Netflix?
Little Witch Academia.
Yeah, Little Witch Academia.
It's like it's sort of like if Harry Potter was an anime.
Yeah. And so everybody played teenage witches. I had too much to drink and went to bed. And the Chris Gray and Kurt and a bunch of other people played that game, but they didn't quite get through everything, and so they decided they were going to play it again the next day. Well, thankfully Chris Gray was busy, so I got to step in the second day they played into his character and actually got to play it as well. But that system is also not out yet for people to purchase, but it's also got some really solid changes to the base PBTA rules that I really like, just like the Great American Novel. And I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because both of those games were amazingly fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's kind of our whole
alcohol.
Oh yeah.
Add alcohol.
That.
I was sober when we played Moonhaven the next day because I had too much to drink for 3 days in a row.
That Moonhaven game was so fun. It because it was like the core like conflicts were about like how the characters felt about each other.
Yeah.
It ended up with a lot of really rewarding RP where we were basically like working out our problems and like figuring out like one of the characters had to go on a date, and so they were just gonna like describe the date, and then one of the other players grabs, because it had like plot points, and he spends a plot point and he goes, "Can you please act this out? I want to watch."
And so the player and the GM had to stand up and RP out the really awkward like meeting each other in the bookstore and that whole awkward, and the girl is like the butch girl who's like she's not a lesbian, but she's like never gone on a date before, and she's like very tough and plays sports, and so she's sitting there and she like shoves a whole cupcake in her mouth and has like frosting on her face, and the GM's supposed to be the boy, and so he like reaches out and like wipes the frosting off the girl's face, and she's like, "Ooh," and, you know, it was really entertaining to watch. It was so great. But yeah, so that is our Strategicon recap. I think we're going to move into our spotlight topic, which is what is the term, Kurt?
So we're discussing bleed, which is the like the bleed over of character emotions into your actual personal emotions.
Yeah.
When you know your character is sad and suddenly you're sad and you're not sure why those emotions are bleeding over onto you.
Yeah. I think I always like to use the example of when like a character dies in a game, and everyone at the table has a real response to that character's death. We were playing the What's in the Box game that we play here at the house, and my character died, and Arrest has like yelled at everyone, like really upset, like, "We have to fix her, like, where is the whatever," and like he was really mad. He yelled at his girlfriend who was sitting next to him, and she like came out of character and was like, "Don't yell at me," because he was like really upset that I had died, and I'm supposed to be his sister-in-law in that game, and so it was a legitimate, like, he had bleed from his character feels into his real feels about me dying.
I don't know. Have you guys ever experienced bleed in a game?
Oh, most certainly. The one that always comes to mind is quite literally our old Dresden game from a million years ago.
Yeah.
When I basically gave up on that character because he would not fit in the group, I was legitimately pissed off at Gigett.
Yeah.
because she was being obtuse and stupid and she's a really bad person.
Alice, my character Alice was being stupid and obtuse.
And a horrible person, and I feel 100% justified that character became an anti-hero villain against that team.
So I feel like I have to defend Alice.
No, there's no defending. You were just.
But
a bad
this
person.
is where comes into that bleed, where like I feel like she was completely justified in
being
her
a bad person.
reasoning, and she wasn't being a bad person. She was following the rules of magic, and you were trying to follow the actual legal law, and the two just weren't matching up.
No, it wasn't about
so...
legal law. It was about helping people.
Yeah.
Well, there's yeah.
Sounds like there's still a little bleed over it.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, there was a point where every time Nightson would come over, he and I would be a little rough with each other. Like there was just a little. I mean, we're always bantery with each other, but there was a little extra edge to the way we would talk to each other.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a point where like everybody had left the house, and I had to go to Kurt and go, okay, I'm not crazy, right? Like Gordon and I, like we're both being really mean to each other, not just in character. Like I'm not crazy, right? Like.
Yeah. We had to have a grown-up conversation, and just and I don't say that like they weren't being grown-ups, but like we had to out of character like talk about it and say like are you mad at Gigett? Are you mad at Nightson? Or are your characters mad at each other? Like let's talk about it, because if you actually have real animosity, like let's get it out on the table. Let's talk about why maybe that happens. Like that's an important part of when you're playing a game with high emotions, and this is especially relevant if you're playing something where you're like pushing on triggers and things like that. Like if you're gonna play some Monster Hearts or something that's like an empathy generator kind of game where high emotions are part of the game, like part of that social contract is you got to be there for each other if somebody breaks down. Like you can't just abandon them or hope that they figure it out. Like
Yeah, you know, like when you throw children at me with exploding teddy bears and scare the shit out of me and give me nightmares in real life.
And that's why we have lines and veils discussion.
Yeah, that is definitely a consistent trope in our games. Like anytime we see a teddy bear now, we're like, nope, fuck that, we're out.
Yep, nope, I'm out.
Nope.
No teddy bears.
No teddy bears.
Yeah, anyone who has any experience with the Renraku shutdown arc of Shadowrun, the dolls and the children, it's core, it's canon, it's right in there, and it's apparently a hot button topic of children suicide bomber teddy bears.
Yep.
You know,
it caught us off guard real bad.
It really did. Mm-hmm. It really did. Well, and we had a discussion as a group. Like you had asked us, hey, what are the things that like legitimately scare you guys that are off limits? Like it's a conversation that we had been having, not necessarily I think because we were going to play Shadowrun, but it was just a discussion we were having as a group. And somehow my like me being terrified of demonic children never came up as this conversation.
Yeah,
and then we're in game, and this kid like starts coming up with a teddy bear, and I'm like, "Honey, are you okay?" And the kid and the bear explode, and I legitimately I was really upset and like had to leave the table for a few minutes because it freaked me the fuck out.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kurt was like, "Oh yeah, that's a thing for Gigett." Like for reals.
Because once again, anyone who has experience with that particular arc, it's dark.
Mm-hmm.
It goes some very dark places, especially with regards to children and their involvement in it. And we were
children powering the whole thing, really.
Yeah, and basically I was up front with most everyone, but somehow that particular aspect of it just never landed, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, and that's a good thing to bring up, is that you don't always know when you have those discussions, like what's off the table. You don't know, like, it may not even occur to you that something would be on the table.
Right.
And so that's why you want, and this is before we really even knew what the X card was, or we had discussed any safety tools as a gaming group. And so we didn't really have the tools to deal with it, but like that is
because this
the
is
reason.
like the way back.
Yeah.
This is a long time ago.
And so this is the reason why you want those tools like an X card or a script change or something like that, so that if something comes up, like everybody understands, like, hey, no, like I can't, you know? And we kind of rolled with it at the time, but
I think of another really good example of bleed is one that we all found very funny, but was not funny to Kurt, was when End of Line ran Dread.
so End of Line. Oh, you know what? You want to talk about End of Line?
No, you go ahead.
Okay,
No,
so
go ahead and preface it, Endo.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
yeah.
Give
Set
us
up what the game
give us
was.
the pitch.
Yeah, and then we can get his perspective on it.
Well, Dread is, as a system, it's a game where you have a group of people who are put into a scenario and they do certain activities and they discover certain things. And the mechanic is that you play Jenga, essentially, and it kind of represents when something happens or you want to do something or you get damaged or hurt or something like that, you would pull from the Jenga block. When the Jenga tower falls over, the person that pulled that block would die. So it's kind of a scary system. It's meant to be a scary system just in general, but I decided, I don't remember what con it was.
It was when we were still doing...
That was either Gateway or Strategicon. I think it was Gateway because it was Orcon because you went for February and because Gigett and I didn't go to that one.
Right.
Yeah, and these guys play tested it for me at their place, and I did some things with it I thought would make it a little bit more, a little scarier. And one of the things I did was each character actually had their own Jenga tower, so it wasn't just one for the team. Everyone had their own that represented their state or their status. They would, speaking of bleed, there'd be physical bleed, where if you got damaged in the game, you would have to pull blocks over time. And I think the thing that they're going to get to is that was kind of a little unique, is that we have this convention that we go to every year. It's just us. We used to call it Cayucas Con, but we didn't go to Cayucas last year. It was MurderCon this year. But all of us go and we do like an Airbnb for a weekend, and we just play board games and we create tabletop games for the weekend, and we all play together. So it's a thing. We've been doing it for years. So for this one, we were all going to play as ourselves. So in the game, we were ourselves at our con, and something happens at our con where we wake up in this house.
In a murder house.
In a murder house.
In a murder house.
Like your Saw or your...
Yeah.
I can't think of another one off the top of my head, but
yeah, that kind of game.
Yeah.
But
so the thing that happened is that throughout the game there's like traps and stuff. So like fuck, I'm trying to remember one that I did. Oh, I stepped on a thing, and underneath it was a bunch of glass, and it like shot up underneath into my foot, and so I had to pull a Jenga cube because of that. I think at one point, like there's been multiple times we've played this Dread game, but like there's things that cut off fingers or exploding toasters or whatever it is. Like there's different traps.
Don't get too far ahead. One of my favorite things was literally the very first room. There's a window that you know just out of reach.
Yep.
And so inherently, everyone goes, "Well, I'm going to climb up this window and try to get out, you know, and see what's going on." So you get, you look around the table. You're the tallest person or whatever, and you're gonna go up and like this, and you're gonna haul yourself up. Well, it had a pressure sensor, which then proceeded to cut off the fingers on one hand. So, Endo then proceeds to pull out a reel of medical gauze and wraps that person's hand up so that they are constantly with a stub, basically, for the rest of the game, and can only pull Jenga blocks with their other hand, basically. And this kept going. So if something happened and you lost an eye, he had eye patches.
He had an eye patch. Yeah, Orestes almost lost both eyes at one point.
He did.
He did,
both
right?
eyes.
Okay,
And we had to.
I had one of those sleepy things you wear when you sleep. So I had the single eye patch, and then I had one of those sleep things you wear on the plane to hide your eyes. So he had to wear that and pull. And you guys had to literally walk him through, down, to the left. Okay, grab that one. All right, pull fast, pull fast.
So
Yeah.
CA Sith Lord is in the chat, and he played in the game at the actual con that we play tested, and he's saying like, "Damn that game! I still have a limp."
But so
Dave
going
got
back to the
fucked
whole
up in that
bleed
game.
part of this, going back to the whole bleed part of this, the very first time we played this, I am a very curious person, and so I would go searching for things and touching things and getting things chopped off or whatever pretty frequently. And Kurt just kept getting more and more mad the more hurt I got.
Right.
Like you could feel him seething with anger, like sitting next to me, that I was getting hurt through this game.
So I have found that I cannot play myself in games. Or at least I cannot play myself in a horror game where my wife is also in the horror game, because every time she got hurt, I got more and more upset that I couldn't prevent the thing happening, and I was getting like legit pissed.
He was yelling at everyone,
and I'm
like,
screaming
for
at people, and I'm telling her not to touch anything. Like I won't let her do any of this
I
stuff.
go to do something, and he's like, "No," and
I would
pushes
jump
me out
up
of the
and
way,
pull a block or something like that.
Yeah.
And he actually basically dove headfirst in a trap because he couldn't handle because you died.
So I inevitably died because I had pulled too many things, and I go over to my Jenga tower and it falls. And so Kurt purposely goes over to do whatever the next task is, goes up to his Jenga tower and goes, "Oh," and like collapses his tower. He committed suicide because I died in the game.
Jengacide. Well, she died. Like I was like, I would just die. Like I don't know. Like that's not.
Which of course prompted us to have some really serious like marriage talks. Like, hey, like if I die, we still have a child. Like you can't just
kill yourself now.
You can't just shut down.
So I learned some stuff about myself that day. But yeah, I experienced some pretty serious bleed to the point where like we've played that game twice, and the second time was different because we didn't play ourselves, like we just played characters.
But you still got mad.
I still got super fucking pissed. Like I couldn't. It was. So I have to I have to give it up to End of Line, because you wrote the game in such a way where there was no, like I could not outsmart the game, and it was the type of game where you needed to outsmart it. And we got to a point.
Kurt being smug about how smart he is.
No. Well, right, the most smug on the podcast. We got to a point where basically something comes up and says like, "Haha, aren't you excited? You've made it to the end." And I was like, "No, I think I tried to kill a little girl." Like I was just so frustrated after that whole thing. And he looks at me and he goes, "If you do that, they're gonna shoot you." And I was like, "Yeah, go ahead." Like I was just done. Like I was so frustrated at a character level, and like it had bled over into my own. Like I couldn't even handle the game anymore.
That Kurt is currently yelling into his microphone.
Oh yeah, I apologize to any listeners. I am screaming at my microphone.
So let me tell you, this is very real. I'm being 100% sincere here.
Yeah.
Being somebody that's not an RPer, I can tell you the first game that I was introduced to, where I, to this day, have very, very bad experiences with bleed over, and that's
Mousetrap. I feel you. Me too.
Monopoly.
Monopoly.
I experienced bleed in Monopoly. Okay, go on.
No, I get that, right? Like you lose all your money, or someone fucks you over, and you feel like,
or you realize that everyone who's the banker is a fucking cheater, and you can't trust anyone, even your own family. That's what you learn from Monopoly, and it bleeds.
I lose friendships over that fucking game.
Yeah,
it's like Mario Party.
It's
you have less friends than when you started.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh, Mario Party, and someone steals fucking 4 stars from you. Fuck you. That's real bleed over.
You can get out of my fucking house, Mark.
Yeah.
And then you're stuck all night digging 3 graves.
Oh my god.
And
give me a new controller, because I just busted this one.
Because I just broke mine because of you, Mark.
So I think the flip side to this conversation of do you experience bleed, and obviously, I mean, even people who aren't serious, like who haven't played a ton of RPG games, have experienced bleed in
Yeah.
such a way where they now have to deal with these emotions that began as imagined emotions and became real through the experiences, these like shared narratives that we create. What is the way that you deal with that bleed, and how do you like come down? How do you get rid of that? How do you deal with those emotions in a healthy way now that you're stuck with them?
I don't know that I've had like. I think it depends on what kind of bleed. For me, when I get super duper invested in a game or a character, I get or something exciting. I get adrenaline, like IRL.
Oh yeah,
like my blood starts pumping and like my cheeks get flushed, and I get super. It exhausts me. Like it just exhausts my whole body. I get really, really tired. For me, whenever I have to focus my mind on something else. So I have to go and do something else and like really make it to where I'm focused on it so much that it just kind of like diminishes what was in my head that won't like stop. Like I just keep thinking about it over and over again. I just need to refocus it on something else.
Yeah, I mean that makes I mean distraction is a great way to deal with it. I think like Kurt was saying earlier too is having that what he kept calling like a grown-up conversation, having that conversation with the player that upset you in game and say like, "Hey, that was in game, right? Like I'm feeling upset towards you for reals, but that was in game, right? And if not, like let's talk this out and let's be adults about this and talk about the fact that there was an emotional moment that affected us, for real." Or laughing about it later where you all talk about the fact that you had feels in games and you're like, yeah, I know, we were all really pissed at each other and, make each other laugh about the fact that those feels existed.
I had to say some apologies for yelling at my friends while we're playing this game that I like legit got upset about.
Or for Gigett, where she just proceeded to kill another one of my characters in another game. That
Okay, you jumped in a volcano all on your own. I may not have liked your character. I may have talked badly about your character to everyone. However, you jumped in the volcano of your own will. I had nothing to do with that.
I mean, I may have pushed on your dark passenger a little bit to engineer some of those moments, but...
I didn't push you in the volcano. You jumped. So that's...
The forensic and people are still working on it. Let's put it that way.
The body's never been found.
He had a fire resist ring on.
What were you saying?
Go ahead, Matt. You mentioned dark passenger. Is that a phrase that's been coined within the RP community for a long time, or is that a phrase
that's before RPG dark passenger?
I don't know where it came from. It references having basically like another personality or like a demon or something riding sidecar.
I recognize it from Dexter.
Yeah, it was popularized.
Oh yeah,
well sure.
Yeah.
But Lord knows how old it really is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know within the mental health profession we talk about it a lot when we talk about like disassociating from yourself and having like a part of your personality that is trying to work counter to whatever your moral compass should be. Talking a lot about your dark passenger, but I'm pretty sure it's a very old term that goes way back. But
yeah.
But yes, Nightson did have a dark passenger running around in his head, so it was definitely, as a GM, Kurt was able to push on that to convince him to do something that it tried to end the world, but I saved the world, so everything was fine. But no,
thanks, I guess.
Yeah, perspective. Yep.
But no, I mean that is true that Nightson and I, we are pretty good friends, and we enjoy each other's company, and we do often tend to make characters that are at odds with each other. And so when we have a game where we're like on the same side, it's almost now kind of weird to be like, wait, we're both agreeing?
Did we just become best friends?
Right? We're like, we're not at odds? Like, this is so strange. And I think the reason why we're okay with playing characters that are at odds is because we've talked about it when we've said, like, okay, Alice or Isabel or whatever, it feels this way about Gerard or whatever character you were playing, not me, or myself, Max. Right? To make sure that
I really
didn't
like
happen.
Max is probably the character I miss the most out of every one of my characters. But his absence did give birth to El Squisho.
Oh yeah.
Right. If Max had not gone the way of the dodo, then we would not have gotten El Squisho in that game. So
It was definitely a different type of game because of El Squisho.
El Squisho was a half.
It went off the rails at that point.
Luchador, right?
There were never
Well, it's 'cause
rails.
he lifted
That's
the
my
train
secret.
and
There are no
started running
rails.
with it.
He was a half orc luchador who solved murders, and so he wore like a trench
Whoa.
coat and a
fedora.
luchador mask with a fedora, and you used car doors
Mhm.
as like shields, and you would
You
throw
just
them at
rip
people.
the doors off of any car nearby.
Yep.
Use that as like a weapon.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah,
That was the thing.
kind of awesome.
but I mean, go ahead. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say, and it started the moniker of Goblins Don't Deserve Arms.
Go ahead,
He had a
just-
penchant for chopping goblin arms off.
Yeah,
Apparently-
you
We
guys
kept
kept
count.
killing the goblins.
Apparently, Nightson, the new, oh dang it, what's it called? The new Marvel show on Netflix. They just did the second
Legion?
series of.
Inhuman.
No, not Iron
There's
Fist.
so many, dude.
Not Iron Fist.
Jessica Jones.
Jessica
Yeah.
Jones.
No, the
Daredevil,
African
Luke
American
Cage.
guy.
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage.
Luke Cage. Apparently, they've somebody RP'd with you guys, a writer or something like that, because I think it's the end of the first season where he takes the car door into the gang house.
Oh, yeah.
Spoilers if anybody hasn't seen
Come
the
on,
first
come on,
season of
man!
Luke
Season 2's out.
He's just
Come on,
ruining it for everyone.
get on
Well-
it. It's not
Well,
my fault.
yeah. And like going back to our bleed conversation, I'm currently experiencing that right now with our home game with my tiger, because anytime he gets in trouble or almost dies,
Mhm.
I legitimately get really upset because he's kind of become my baby in the game, and so when he gets in trouble or he gets knocked unconscious, I'm like, holy shit, we have to stop the whole game and we have to res my tiger right now. Like, it's very
Yeah.
upsetting
Well-
when he dies, and I get really upset about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the most recent time it happened to me was in a dialect game on the Gauntlet, and the reason I know that it happened is because I can't shut up about the game
Yeah.
or my character, because I walked away from that game like
I can vouch that he will.
wondering
not
like,
shut
do I
about
need to go
about
write
the game.
fiction about this character, like something like my brain's not done processing like the things
Yeah.
that we established. Like I feel like the story's not over.
Well, with
Start a
that
diary.
being said, I ran a game that was Gigett in Germany. It's weird to call it that, but sure, we'll call it that. And everyone played. It was a pulp game set in the 1940s. And the reason I know that bleed happened in that game is, even though it was like a 6-part game, y'all wanted to do email RP with me and would be like, hey, can you hop on so that we can IM out this scene that's going to happen in this room that has nothing to do with the 8-session game, so we can find out what these characters are doing? Like,
Oh.
when you care enough about your characters to spend time with them, even when you're not at the table, or send me, thank you to our wonderful friend Dee, who would send me pages and pages of backstory that she had made up for her character. I loved that she was so invested in her character that she had made up this very rich backstory, and and that's how I know that bleed happened in that game, because of how invested everyone was in their character.
Well, that was the first time we really played anything other than a one-shot that wasn't D&D.
Right.
Like, it was the first time we played anything in a it was the 40s, but in modern times compared to playing fantasy settings. And so, like, I think it was the first time we really got to know, like, connect with our characters on that level. Like, we could envision ourselves as those characters.
Yep.
And I think a lot of the characters really fit with type of archetypes that the players enjoyed playing, and so we ended up with so much out of game RP, like over email or chat, that still feels like one of the most fleshed out gaming experiences that we ever had. And I look back and it's like 5 to 6 sessions or something ridiculous like that.
And we
like,
went,
it's not a lot of games.
there was
but
a weird time travel thing we did where we ended up, you guys played those characters in space, but even the space part of that was only about a year and a half
Mhm.
playing once a month. So I mean, really, it wasn't that long that you guys were with those characters that if they became such enmeshed things in your lives.
Yeah, but it was pretty. We loved those characters hard.
Yes.
Well, it's one of the amazing things about the medium, that it allows us to get invested in these characters.
Mm-hmm.
Other forms of media, TV, movies,
Mhm.
books, they spend countless rewrites and dollars trying to get people to empathize
care.
with these characters, to be excited when they succeed or sad when they fail, and they fail so many times. I'm sure anyone can think of a movie they've seen where there's this huge dramatic scene and a character dies. You're like, I don't even know that guy's name. I'm sure I'm supposed to care, but no, I don't know who this is or what he's for.
Right.
Well, I mean, it has. Oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, and it's just such an amazing thing that this form of media, this playing these tabletop games with your friends, is a method of connecting inherently with these characters that you can actually
become really invested
to get pissed off.
Right. Yeah.
And it's even though we're constantly talking about the negative emotions that are driven from the sadness or being angry or whatnot, so long as you have a method for dealing with those emotions so that it doesn't actually affect your real life, it is an experience. It is an entertaining experience.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I've read studies that talk about the fact that the way that we imagine these shared narratives, these shared worlds, the experiences that we pretend to go through, once they're a memory, they're basically the same as going through that experience with each other.
Yeah.
And so when you look back 5 years, 5 years previous, the people that you played that game with, like, you might as well have been in the army together, because of the memory holds on as if it was real because you were imagining it so vividly.
Neil deGrasse Tyson actually talks pretty in depth about that exact that what happens and how memory is so influential on.
Yeah.
Well, and the other side of that is when we're talking about bleed and emotion and that kind of stuff, it's also why a lot of people don't want to play games that are written in a way that you're supposed to feel a lot of emotion, like Velvet Glove or Monster Hearts. Or any of those kinds of games where it's about girl gangs in the 70s or whatever it is, and there's sexual violence going on, or the Monster Hearts game where there's teen drama going on or whatever it is. And it's like, for some people, like, that sounds like fun, like feeling those feelings as a character sounds like a fun time. But for people who work in certain industries where you spend a lot of time dealing with heightened emotions as part of your job, playing those kinds of games don't appeal to me personally, because I'm already emotionally exhausted. I don't need to feel empathetic towards, the sexual assault that my gang mate went through, because I'm already dealing with that stuff in my personal or in my professional life. I don't also need to be dealing with that in my fun time.
Yeah, right.
But some people, they don't deal with really heavy emotions and empathetic things in their professional life or in their personal life, and so playing those games can be fun because they haven't experienced those things in real life, so they don't have that real life feeling to touch to that causes a real bleed. Which is why I tend to avoid those kinds of games personally.
Or you or you don't have any connection to your feelings at all, and you just don't care.
Well, that's the other thing. I mean, you can play an empathetic. You can play a game that has all that violence and stuff, because if you're the type of person who, maybe I wouldn't say cold, but maybe not as connected to your emotional side, then those types of things aren't going to affect you as deeply. They're not going to sit with you.
I believe the term you're looking for is psychopath.
No, I'm not saying you're a psychopath.
Well, yeah, because you legally can't.
Sociopath.
Sociopath. Yeah.
It's sociopath. But no, I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is that, when you spend a lot of time around those real things, it's hard to find them fun in a game.
Yeah. Well, and that's the negative side of bleed, right? Like, that's I feel sad because my character is sad, but End of Line hit on the positive side of, like, I'm on an adrenaline high because, like, I succeeded at a point where it was so vital and it was so surprising, and like I'm in there, like I feel like I succeeded even though the character did the thing. And so, like, there can be some positive outcomes too, which is also, like, you're building camaraderie. Like, the friendships come from these shared experiences, even if they're imagined.
Yep. Well, cool, guys. Does anybody have any final thoughts on our spotlight topic of bleed, how to make your players feel feels?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that you should be trying to cause bleed because it can have some negative effects on the recipient, but definitely being aware of like when it happens, like don't abandon that person to have to deal with their feels.
Especially,
like,
I think as a GM, like it kind of falls on you to facilitate like the safe space to process whatever happened, right? Like if there's a fight between me and Nightson at the table and it feels like we're fighting for real and Kurt was the GM, it should fall to Kurt to kind of at the end of the session be like, all right, so you guys okay?
Well, even as a player, like I don't think it should just fall like the GM.
No,
obviously,
I don't say it should
obviously
necessarily fall to you,
should be
but
paying attention. But I think as
a
a player too, if you see that sort of thing going on and you notice that no one is there,
Yeah.
like if no one's picking up the mantle, you just jump in there if you feel like you can handle it.
Yeah, keep your friends together as friends.
Yeah, we'll support each other.
Cool.
So.
All right. Well, Handor, have you written us an outro?
No.
Fucking Handor.
You've been gone for how many goddamn weeks and you still haven't written
I swear to God, like, what, were you laid up in that hospital, like, for 3-4 weeks, getting your kidneys back, and you couldn't write us an outro?
Hey, don't give him shit. That's my job. All right. Well, Kurt, do you want to tell the people where they can find us?
Yeah, if you've been hanging out with us, we of course greatly appreciate it, and we would love to hear from you. And so, if you're listening to this show, if you're watching this show on Twitch, if you're watching us on Twitch, give us a follow or share with your friends. If you're watching it on YouTube, subscribe and all that stuff. If you're listening to us on Apple Podcasts, because we're friggin' on iTunes now, which is so weird.
Or Spotify.
I feel super excited when I see it. But if you're listening on any of your favorite podcast app, then rate and give us some reviews and shit like that. Unless you didn't like us, and then don't bother. But
you can just leave it blank.
Yeah. But if you made it to the end, something went right, go ahead and leave a review.
Bad press is good press. So if you hated it, just tell us that you hated it.
Don't leave a review, it to your damn self. Share it with your friends. Yeah, don't leave a review. Share it and tell them.
Honestly,
how
if you didn't like it, send us an email and tell us what you didn't like.
If you'd like to email,
send that email to endofline at.
That is not a valid email address. Send that email to pixelscandal@gmail.com, or if you want to, you can follow us on Twitter @pixelscandal, or Instagram if you want to see pictures of the board games that we play with each other. Or I'm going to be at Big Bad Con in a few weeks if you want to see me hobnobbing with unfamous nerds. I'll probably post some pictures there.
Or Handor's super sweet gaming table.
Oh yeah, sweet gaming table. You can follow us on Instagram @pixelscandal. Did I cover all the things where people can go to pixelscandal.com. You can see all of our audio episodes, find all of our videos there. And you know what? I just want each and every one of you to know that I personally love you.
Well, cool. Well, thanks so much, guys,
With that
for
in
listening.
mind.
That's
With that in mind. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
everybody.
Bye. I'm gonna do.